We bought the wrong properties in the wrong area for the wrong price and listened to the wrong people. That was some of the mistakes that we made. Mary thought we were crazy spending this amount of money, but I don't think we would be where we are today if we hadn't have done that. If you'd have said to me, what's the number one thing people should have when they're going to be a successful property investor, and it's having the right.
In this episode, we are joined by Chris and Mary Selwood, powerhouse property investors from Belfast. They have built a thriving portfolio, created the Belfast Property Meet, and are a beacon for aspiring investors. Get ready to hear about their journey from Belfast to brilliance.
We had to work really hard to build our power team, to get the right solicitor, to get the right accountant. And it's taken us years. We've kissed a lot of frogs along the way. It's been an amazing journey of lots of mistakes. But also you have to make mistakes to learn. If you think you're going to get rich quickly from property, it ain't going to happen. You have to put time, effort, and commitment.
One of the biggest things is seeing that people are properly committed to it. They're going to do it over the long term. Their why is strong as well. And then other people are just in it for the money. Normally when someone's just in it for the money, it doesn't work.
Is there any time that you can think of that was a really dark time for you, but what was the thing that pulled you up and out of it?
We did have a dark time.
Welcome to A Wealthy Life. This is the podcast where we talk about money, mindset, meaning, because actually wealth is more than just numbers. It's actually about your freedom, your purpose, your passion, what you want to choose to do with your life. My name's Vicki Wusche, and I'm delighted today that I'm joined by two old friends, powerhouses in property investing world, community leaders, Chris and Mary Selwood from Belfast. Now, just before I say hello to them, I just want to let you know they've built a thriving portfolio. They've created the Belfast Property Meet back in, when do we say, 2010, I think. I believe I've spoken twice at it, and we just worked out that the last time was probably about 2015. Chris and Mary, have I given you enough of a big welcome there?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vicki. We're absolutely delighted to be here. We don't normally respond very positively to positive comments because we're quite modest, but I'll take that.
You'll take it. That's good. Well, we're just friends chatting, so that's all right. Yeah. So look, listeners, what I want to share with you in this episode is that it's going to be more than just us talking about property, bricks and mortar stuff. There will be a lot of that, obviously, but it's also going to be about the momentum, the energy, the mindset, and the whole design behind all of this to give you the life that you want. We're going to talk about the turning points in their journey. We're going to talk about how they invest, what's the intention behind their investing, why the community has become so key for them. And really, if you want to wrap that up in one sentence, we're going to be talking about the truth about what it makes to be a property business successful, sustainable, and something you enjoy. So whether you're starting out, whether you're looking for your next big leap, whether you're just property curious, or whether you are a business owner, because this is still relevant to you, even if you take those insights and transfer them into your life, this conversation is going to be grounded in wisdom. We've got tens and tens of years between us, not quite hundreds of years yet, but tens and tens of years, loads of lessons. And that's what we're going to share with you. So, as I've said, thank you. Lovely to see you both. I mean, just listeners, to let you know, we've had a good chat offline. So I want to start off with some questions probably that I know the answer to, but I'd really like you to share out what it is for the others. I know that, Mary, you were a nurse. I can't remember what you did in the real world before all of this, Chris, but what made you start investing in property? What was the start of the journey?
I worked in passenger ships and cargo ships and military ships and the like. And we started investing in 2005 for a pension for me. So I was moving around jobs based on where there was work available for UK and Irish merchant seamen, and it was very difficult to maintain a pension, a company pension at that time, a private company pension. So we invested for a pension for me, and then
it was solely just we were going to buy one house.
One house, yeah. We thought if we buy one house, and today, well, that was back 20 years ago, we were paying £55,000 for a 2-bed mid-terrace. But maybe in 30 years' time, when I retire, it could be worth a couple of 100,000. I didn't even think it would be worth that, but certainly it would be the pension, and it would pay me 500 or 600 quid a month on top of my state pension, and that would be better than just having a state pension. So that was
the reason.
that was the plain and simple reason why we got started in property.
Where did it all go wrong then? How did you end up where you are now?
It all went wrong because I realized we were on a repayment mortgage, because that's what the mortgage advisor, who incidentally wasn't an investor, and we were taking advice from people who weren't investors, which was wrong. So then we realized, hang on a second, let's take some money out of this property and go and buy another property. And actually the mortgage, if we put it on interest only, is, even with the extra money that we borrowed to put down for a deposit for another house, it's actually less than the first mortgage we had. So yeah, that was it. So we realized then, sort of buy another property and still have cash flow from the first property. And now we have another property with cash flow, and that was the start of it. And then we went and got some education a few years down the line. So we sort of put the cart before the horse, if you like.
You're still standing. So I think I could cheat and say there's one lesson there, that even when you make mistakes, it's possible to recover. I mean, are there any that really stand out early on in your career? I mean, you said you took the wrong advice and the wrong financial advisor. You did capital repayment. I had already bought some properties and then was going to quite a famous property meet, met someone there who said that this was the way to invest in property. And I ended up, my first solo purchase was mortgage fraud. Yay. Wow. Before I accidentally let on to the solicitor, I spoke to the wrong, I had 2 solicitors or something, spoke to the wrong solicitor and said to the wrong solicitor, I don't understand what's happening. And he went, you can't tell me that, you're not meant to be talking to me. And then I started reading things and realized that we were committing a version of mortgage fraud back in the day. You know, it was that buy in the morning, repurpose, Mortgage Express, no money left in. Somebody else bought it and then they just don't even go there. So that was like my early lesson. What about you?
I think for us, we had no plan. It was just random, especially before education, property education. We had, we definitely didn't have a plan. We just property. We didn't know anything really about strategies and what best strategy suited us at a particular time.
Thinking about what it was, we bought the wrong properties in the wrong area for the wrong price and listened to the wrong people. And that was some of the mistakes that we made. And then the crash happened round about the time that we got some property education, spent a lot of money. Well, I think Mary thought we were crazy spending this amount of money, but I don't think we would be where we are today if we hadn't have done that. So
yeah, I got the same thing. I got the whole family. That's how we met on that property training. And just I spent all that money, and between the 4 of us, we all spent that amount of money, and that would have been enough to buy 4 houses.
Yeah.
But as you say, I always wonder about education, is it the knowledge that you get? And that plays a part, doesn't it? You learn stuff, but you can learn stuff other ways nowadays. I mean, you got to remember, we're dinosaurs. We were doing it before there was all this AI and everything was online and everything else. You can learn stuff anyway. Are you learning the right stuff? Are you learning the right stuff from the right people? Have you checked the source of the knowledge? Because, just because it's online doesn't make it true. There's that type of stuff about the education. But I always wonder about, and Chris brought it up, this amount of money. Because you spent that amount of money, did that change something in your head and the way you think that made the success happen quicker or better or whatever? Is there investing in your future with real cash that's a bit painful to hand over making the difference? Or do you just think it's the knowledge and the people that you were with?
I think it's a bit of everything.
Actually, yeah. For me, I think because that money was hard got, and I think I'm very lucky because there's 2 of us. If I had to gone and done the training myself, you look at a room, 100 people, probably 10 to 20 people might take action and go on to invest in property, and the other 80 don't do anything and they've wasted that money. But for us, that money was, believe me, Vicki, it was very precious. And we had to make it work. We really did have to make it work. And I think we were also at a disadvantage is that we live in Northern Ireland. We went across the water to get our property education. And also things are quite more difficult here, more selective here, I suppose. So we had to work really, really, really hard to build our parting, to get the right solicitor, get the right accountant. And it's taken us years. We've kissed a lot of frogs along the way. It's kind of been, it's been an amazing journey, a journey of lots of mistakes. But also you have to make mistakes to learn and to realize, the mistakes have made you so much better that you can help others not to make the mistakes.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I've answered your question, but yeah.
No, that is absolutely no, I would agree with you that it's sometimes in making the mistakes, you don't just learn that lesson. It always comes with some other lessons as well. So I didn't just learn about what mortgage fraud was. I learned about how important it is to check out the people that you speak to. And also, just because they're big names, they're not necessarily I like values, whether some people share the same values of you. This is a very risky business we're in. Every business is risky. So we could choose to be taxi drivers or shop owners or a hairdressing salon or something on the internet these days. Starting a business requires investment and requires your time, and there's risk, the risk of failure, equally the risk of success and what that might do to you. But having got all of that risk, it's still about what way do you want to run your business? Because we can all look at them. I mean, you're frequently hearing things about all these big corporates now and they're dodging taxes and they're doing this, that, and the other. And you think, oh, I'd never be like that. But it's down to your values, isn't it? And the people that surround you. And that sort of leads me into the community, because it's not, well, it is long, but not that long after you started investing in property that you started the Belfast Property Meet. Yes. So what drove you to do that?
There was none, for one. I remember having a conversation with YPN, Your Property Network magazine, and they had a list of all these networking events throughout the UK. And I asked, I can't remember the lady's name, but I said, why do you not have one in Belfast? And she says, well, we don't actually run them, we just promote them. She says, why don't you start one yourself? And I thought, oh, well, I wouldn't know what to do with a meeting. But we'd had a bit of a meeting together with some of the people that had done the Tigrant training back in the day, because there was quite a number from all over the island of Ireland. And we met up, and I suppose inadvertently had a networking event. And then it just fizzled out because there was no agenda, there was no structure. There was people who had been educated, but they didn't know what to do thereafter. And everybody just went off and done their own thing. And then we revisited that and decided we'd start our own event. Someone else was interested and we teamed up. And then after a year and a half, he got fed up and he went off and done his own thing. And me and Mary carried on, building a power team. If you're going to find the best solicitors and the best architects and the best accountants and the best mortgage advisors, you're probably going to have to speak to quite a number of them. As Mary said, you kiss a lot of frogs and you work with people and then find out they're not as good as someone else, and then the values aren't right. And networking events are just the perfect place for those connections to happen. And that's why we started it, and that's why we kept going. I remember once or twice we thought it was running well. We moved into another more expensive venue, and the first event cost us over 200 quid out of our own pocket. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't afford to pay a couple of £100 out once a month just to meet a few people, because let's face it, the rest of the people were in the room, they were meeting a few people and they were only paying 10 quid to get in, but it was costing me 200. So we thought about quitting. And people said, oh, no, don't quit. Keep going, keep going. We didn't quit. We kept going. And I can't remember. I just turned a corner one time and we'd 30 people, and then we'd 40, then 50. And then the next milestone was 100. And then we had 150 at a few events. And, it sort of settled down again around about 100 people. So it's just, I think we'd become well known. We have a lot of these, the power team are now sponsors of the event. They do business at the event and do quite well.
They're a point of contact.
They're a point of contact. Yeah, and there's people that come that then we don't see them for maybe a year, and they come back and they start being regulars. So it's funny how people operate in that kind of network world. But yeah, that's what it's done for us, and we've met some amazing people. Some of them have become really close personal friends as well. People that we go on holidays with on a regular basis. People we go for meals with and drinks and stuff. So yeah, that's important, because it's, if you just have professional relationships and no close relationships, life's slightly different. We have some really good friends, people we can rely on, as
Yeah.
When I reflect back, we've helped people transform their lives, and you don't realize it at the time. Just a little help, constant little help. And you look back and you think, oh my goodness, we've been part of their transformation.
Yeah.
But they've had to take the action. They've had to take responsibility. We've been always there to help and advise and support them. And it does your heart good when you see you've been...
It's like your children growing up in a way.
Yes, it is actually. Yeah. Yes, it is actually, Vicki. Yes.
They're their own people, but you've been...
Yeah.
Just guys.
I mean, we were in Inverness last week. There was about 20 people at it. They have their own sort of problems with people having to travel over a wide geographical area. And their meeting was on a Saturday afternoon, and I found that strange, but because they have to travel so far, it's the only day they
can't do a weekday.
And we went there, and they were great people. They were so friendly, and the host, Alan Kelly, was a great guy and made us so welcome and looked after us. But that he said afterwards that we made such an impression, and that's nice that we're there. What would you say? We're bragging about the deals that we've done, because it just said, oh, here's another fantastic deal. Oh, here's another fantastic deal. And I sometimes think people will think, oh, look at this guy. Who does he think he is? But they were delighted to see it, and
people don't see it as bragging. They actually, just to put sort of like your mind at rest, they want to hear what you're doing, because there are lessons in those real journeys and real deals.
Yeah.
It's all well and good doing all the plans. Oh, you could do this, you could do that. But when you actually say, oh, look, here's number one, the street, and we paid this and we did that. And especially if there's a hurdle in there that you get over.
Well, there always is a hurdle.
Yes. Maybe we should see if we could list any houses that you haven't had a hurdle over.
Yeah.
That might take a while to think of that. But I just wanted to pick up on what Chris was saying, this idea of, from the networking, finding people that become close friends. And I remember saying years ago that I would never do a joint venture with anybody that I wouldn't have come and stay in my house. That level of trust, to have someone sleep in the bedroom next to us, implies a much closer relationship than someone I've just met networking. And all the rage a few years back was joint ventures and borrowing money from people and lending money to people. And I'm just thinking, that whole, the values that we've already mentioned, but that trust and connection that needs to be built. And that does take time. And it's only when you invest in the relationship that I feel that the benefits of the relationship, the friendship that comes out of it, the mutual support that comes out of it, but also then if you're actually doing business together, that outcome that comes out of it takes time to foster that. And I think sometimes when you can rush it, you can get yourself into a relationship with the wrong people. No, I'm not going to ask that. I was going to say, am I going to say, well, you decide if you want to answer this question, whether you...
I think that's a great barometer for deciding whether you do joint ventures. And we have done a lot of joint ventures with people over the years out of necessity rather than choice. Our credit rating was affected. We bought property with the wrong person. Our credit rating was affected. And we had no choice then but to continue to do, get mortgage hosts and do joint ventures. That person aside, I think everyone else that we've done a joint venture with has stayed in our house, has slept in the room next door to us, or we have gone on holidays with, or we've gone to their house. So we're quite selective. There are maybe one or two people recently that we've done joint ventures with, but it's builder people, people that are builders that we've JV'd with that they're actually
flip projects.
They're part of our group. Nothing long term, just a quick buy, fix up and flip. But yeah, that is quite important, and it's definitely a good barometer. If you wouldn't have them in the room next door to you in your house, don't.
Why have them in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah, or in your business, or
Yeah.
more importantly, in your credit file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. But I don't think people understand that when two come together in a credit file, all of whatever's gone on in their credit history comes back. This is like an intimate relationship, as intimate as you can get.
As they say, a marriage, don't they?
It is. It is. Well, it's a financial marriage, isn't it? So there's a lot that we've already covered in these first few minutes. So we've hinted at you've been buying houses, then you hinted at flips, then we've hinted at developments. We know that we've got the property meet. I mentioned there's the Property Success University, the PSU. How do you split this between us? And this is a leading question because I know one answer that Chris will come to at the end. But how did you start out, and where are you now in terms of sort of like the roles and how you manage all of this work and communicate and stay married because you're still married?
Do you want me to?
Married 30 years.
Yeah, 29 years in a few weeks' time, which is amazing in itself. Not amazing that it's lasted that long, of course, but in general. Do you want me to answer that first? I'll give my version, you can give your version.
Sure.
And then see if you're still married afterwards.
If we get to 29 years.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it was probably me that drove everything in the first place. I went to the Rich Dad, Poor Dad 2-hour free seminar. I told Mary. Mary wasn't really interested. Mary was into nursing. She was into helping people and caring for people. Property wasn't that thing. I insisted. I got my way. We got into property. Things went a bit wrong at the beginning. Of course, I get the blame because I made the decisions. The market changed. Lots of cheap property was available. We started buying good deals instead of bad deals. And all the stuff that we have that we don't like is stuff that we bought back in the early days before the property crash and before things changed. I started the property meet. Mary then kind of came on board, helping out, maybe taking tickets at the door or whatever, and then we ended up having to do it between us. Then Mary would have joined me on stage. I had the idea of Property Success University, like online mentorship, because people were asking for one-to-one coaching. We didn't want to be charging people large sums of money. Let's be honest, a lot of people won't pay large sums of money, but they will be quite happy to pay a monthly subscription in group coaching online. And that's exactly what we did. And we've grown that. Yeah. So, and then in terms of the property projects, I probably started off project managing them. Then Mary dipped her toe in the water. Mary got used to it. And now Mary project manages. I spend a lot of time at the local football club as chairman running the football club. And apart from that... Voluntary. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not a CEO on 250k a year. It costs me money to do the job. But anyway, it's out of generosity rather than anything else.
Yeah.
So I think in Mary's world these days, I don't do very much and Mary does everything.
That's pretty much how I saw it, to be honest.
Yeah. So yeah, but
you put the ideas in the pond, and she's like,
yeah. I still feel as if I work twice as many hours as I did when I was employed. So there's that old saying about I wanted financial freedom, so I left the job at 40 hours a week on 20 quid an hour to take my own job at 80 hours a week on £10 an hour. I'm as well off as I was beforehand, but I'm certainly not financially free or have time freedom. But of course, the reality is much different. That's how it started off when I give up my job.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, just to clarify that, 40 hours a week for £20 an hour, the fact that you can afford to go and be the chairman and put your hours in there somewhere where your passion is, somewhere where your interest is, it means that you are successful, that you do have a business that is generating an income that gives you that freedom to go off. And you said when we were talking before off air that, I'm paraphrasing, you sort of get bored. You like starting things, but you're not the finisher. And now you're off doing this, and this is your new passion, and it'll be your passion for a while, and you'll be off and running with that. But you couldn't do that unless you'd built the foundations. And in the partnership, and then we'll come to Mary in a minute, that in the partnership, if all you had was you, Chris, start a few things, not quite finish a few things, then you wouldn't have the success that you have unless you've got someone coming along and doing the back of it. And I'm like the reverse of you in that I was the one who wanted to go to the property meets. I was the one who dragged the family along. I was the one who made the initial bad decisions and some of those early properties. Not, I mean, you said that you didn't have the education and you didn't buy in the right places. And I started to buy in 2008, just as the market crashed. So we bought properties that were between 50 and 90,000 pounds, and then they went down to like 45,000 pounds, and you just going, oh, we're upside down on a big scale on these mortgages. But they carried on renting. That was our saving grace. You know, we still had the tenants. As long as we didn't flog the asset, we didn't have a problem. And that sort of, you know, by the skin of our teeth, just scraped us through to the point where then we turned a corner, the economy changed, and you just keep going. So Mary, where do you see your role, and what's your version of Chris's story?
That's true. It is all true, all true. We're two different people. We bring different things to the table. You know, he's just got a growth mentality. Where I am more consistent. Chris says I don't mind doing the same thing over and over again. It doesn't bother me. I love property. I just love property. I love all aspects of property. If you were to ask me what I like best helping people. That's just me. And it's probably me from my nursing background as well. I brought my traits and my personality and my purpose and my values into property, basically.
Yeah.
And I love doing our own projects. I love helping other people do their projects. And again, it's going back to being part of someone else's journey and making a difference.
And that's what you would have been as a nurse too, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
been
absolutely.
Part of someone's health journey and making a difference to them. So you've got that same thing here. Yeah. And that sort of parallels with the teaching, is that I was always part of someone's educational journey. And bringing those same values in. So that's really interesting. Thinking about then, to Mary, the people that you've met, and you must have met so many aspiring and maybe even inspiring investors. What patterns have you noticed that might be, can you see a pattern of someone who's going to succeed versus the pattern of someone who maybe isn't going to succeed?
Maybe it's just you attract people that are very like-minded. Maybe I tend to find people that think they can get rich quickly from property because of social media and all the gurus and what do you call them? Influencers out there these days that get rich quick. They don't tend to gravitate to me because I am very honest. I will not fluff numbers. I will not tell them what they want to hear. I am very down to earth and say, you know, if you want to do this, tell me your situation, assess their situation, but personally, financially, all of the above. Tell them basically, you know, if you think you're going to get rich quickly from property, it ain't going to happen. You know, you have to put time, effort, and commitment into growing portfolios. Probably I don't attract because I am very truthful. The people that want to help themselves, they put the work in. Many people that, you know, I've got a couple that are two dentists, and one works in the Republic, the other one works in Northern Ireland. She started her own aesthetic business. They have two young children. They turn up at every property meet. They turn it up at all our PSU calls, all our site visits.
Mastermind of it.
Everything we run, they're there. Either of them. Okay. They have done BRR, which is now their buy-to-let. They have done a small development. They've done service accommodation on their first HMO. They're buying actually the commercial building that Helen is renting at the moment. So it's just people that are honest, hardworking, and really want to make a difference to their life. And they have a why, they have a purpose of what they're doing.
Yeah,
It's
that sounded it.
it's that old saying about 80 or 90% of being successful is showing up.
Yeah.
Those people show up.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many others, and there are also people who maybe don't show up all the time, but they're still committed
Yeah.
and they're still doing stuff. They're busy away behind the scenes. We find the people that come in sometimes that some people are there and it's a flash in the pan thing, chasing the shiny penny, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know, they talk about property sourcing and rent to rent. And I'm not saying that either of those two strategies don't work, but people come in with the attitude that these are the two easiest ways. These are the two paths of least resistance. Oh, I can just go and find a property and package it up and somebody will pay me $5,000 for it. Well, the wake up call is it needs to be a decent deal. And unfortunately, these people don't know what a decent deal is. You can't take a property online, sell it to somebody just because it's online and charge them $5,000. It's not that easy. And then rent to rent, you know, trying to take something that's owned by somebody else and multiply the rent without having to spend a bit of money refurbing it or getting an HMO license, or in Northern Ireland where you need planning for HMOs, you still need to invest a bit of money, invest quite a bit of time. You just know these people that come along don't want to do anything, they're not committed, and you know they won't succeed, and 90% of the time we're right. One of the biggest things is seeing that people are properly committed to it and that they're going to do it over the long term, that their why is strong as well. You know, they're busy people and they want a bit more time. They've got a young family. They want to spend more time with their family. And then other people are just in it for the money. And normally when someone's just in it for the money, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting, isn't it? Is the combination of the why and the commitment. So you might have a strong reason why you want to do it, but you're not committed enough, which actually says there's some sort of misalignment in the background, isn't it? Or you might be committed or think that you're committed, but because the why isn't there, it doesn't support you over those challenging times.
Yeah.
It doesn't keep you going, does it?
People should have when they're going to be a successful property investor, and it's having the right mindset. Having all the money, having all the knowledge, I think it's a waste of time without the right mindset. I think mindset is key.
And the mindset then helps you know that you've got your values aligned, that then you know what your values are so you can work with the right people, that then you commit the strategy, and that strategy is the plan that's going to take you towards, in some ways, without being arrogant, it's obvious on this side, isn't it? But I think there's another thing here, which is, you know, you just think about us, both of us, on the last 20 years. We started off and you went 2008 to 10, all the property prices were crashing. And while that was theoretically a good time to buy, did we ever know when we were at the bottom of the market? Do you sit around and wait and do nothing, or do you just keep going? But equally, if you'd already got some properties in the bag like we had, you're thinking about all of these going down and all the opportunities over here. Meanwhile, there's a bit of your head going, but all of that's dropping and all of that's dropping as well. And you're thinking, do I jump into another one? And then that might just add up in. So you have all of these
Challenges?
Doubts, challenges. And if that wasn't enough, we get through that. And then you've got all the wobbles that come in the market. So Brexit had a whole wobble thing. Then we went back to back straight into the pandemic, and that brought a whole wobble thing. It's just like it's this constant environment. It's like we're on this, if I use I'll very dangerously try and use a shipping reference, that, you know, we're on a boat in a stormy sea. We never know when the storms are coming. We never know. You got to carry on steering that boat in your direction. Is there any time that you can think of in any of those examples, from either, you know, the property crash or maybe COVID or anything else in between, that was a really dark time for you? And you might want to share what that is, but what was the thing that pulled you up and out of it?
Yeah, well, we did have a dark time because our story, without getting into the deep story, we bought a property with someone that turned out to be a criminal, and the property was in our name deliberately. It was because we tried to get a joint mortgage. He couldn't because he'd missed a credit card payment. Anyway, he turned out to be a criminal. And we got arrested because the customs thought that we were money laundering on his behalf.
Oh,
Which wasn't the case. And that was a very dark time because we had our assets frozen, we had our bank accounts basically closed, and life became very difficult for about 5 months back in 2009, 2010. And then just like that, they said, you've no case to answer. The long and the short of it was they looked into him, seen that he had a connection with us, looked at us, and they said, oh, you guys earn 50 grand a year between you. I was on 25, Mary was on 25 or whatever. You've got 1.2 million pounds worth of property. That couldn't possibly be the case. And as I had said to them when they questioned me, and I said, well, I don't have a 1.2 million pound mortgage. I've got a 1.2 million pounds worth of mortgages, plural, like one at 100, one at 70, one at 90, whatever, added up to it. I said, so it doesn't matter that I only earn 50 grand. We only earn about 50, 55 grand. We don't have a 1.2 million pound house. We have 1.2 million pounds worth of mortgages.
So they're paid by tenants as well.
Paid by tenants, yeah. So, they were basing it on a residential mortgage.
Yes.
Not the buy-to-let world. So they didn't know that this wasn't possible. So they'd sort of added 2 and 2 together and got 10. And anyway, as I said, just as quick, they turned around and wrote to us and said, we don't have a case to answer, because they realised that we'd bought these properties before we ever met that guy. We just happened to buy one property with him, and we never took any money off him. He gave his money to the solicitor. And that kind of, I wouldn't say ruined our lives, but defined who we were. Gave us a massive challenge, and then it changed our whole strategy, because that ruined our credit rating. Our credit rating is quite important to a property investor.
Vital, yeah. I mean, the stress on you two as a couple, your credibility, because obviously, you're part of this community.
Yeah.
Just awful time for you.
Yeah, I mean, if I tried to frame it in a positive way, the lucky thing was it happened before we started the property meet. So then when we started the property meet, we always had that story that we could tell, that overcoming a challenge.
Yeah.
From a dark place. And unfortunately, people love a dark story.
They do, don't they? Absolutely, they do. Yeah. It's almost like if you just were a normal person that hadn't had anything wrong with you, but then you were still successful, it's like people wouldn't be as happy.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to be that hero that comes through that journey, haven't you?
I think for me, Vicki, it was horrendous, and for all the reasons you've said. My reputation, credibility, trust, and just everything. We had to start again, and we were halfway through our property education at that time. And we have to be thankful we learned all the creative side of things of property. So I'll always remember we're in a position to get an assisted sale, because, we had to start from something. We couldn't get a mortgage. So we had to do assisted sales. It's just people come into your life at the right time. And we got this property, and I remember doing the refurb, and we hadn't got pockets of money to do the refurb, so it was like working extra, working overtime. It was the longest refurb in the world, and I think the refurb cost us 12,000 at that time in 2009. But the assisted sale worked, so we got a chunk of money to go on and do another one and another one and another one. So it got us on the road again. But we had to make a decision when that happened to us, whether to just forget about property.
Yeah, do you go back into your shell?
Go back to work. Well, I was still at work, but just concentrate on work, forget about property.
Well, it wasn't an option for me, because I'd left work.
Yeah,
I'd kind of sacked the boss, if you like, walked off the gangway one day and sort of give them the 2 fingers that was it. I was done, and I wouldn't be coming back. So I'd kind of burned that bridge. So I had to make it work. And I suppose knowing that you've got nothing to fall back on apart from going and stacking shelves in Tesco's, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying from where I was, that would have been a job down the slope for me, on not as much money, and it wouldn't have worked for me.
No, I agree with you. I mean, there's been times where I've hit a block, and I've thought to myself, why don't I just go and get a few hours in a supermarket, because then I'd know that I had this amount of money coming back in. And you have that moment, and then you do the analysis and you go, yeah, but earning £10 an hour stacking shelves or whatever it might be, if I really put that hour effort into this, I know that I can find a deal. I know, and how you almost hang on to that self-belief that you can turn this round, that strength. Where does that come from?
I think, when I look back now, and that's taken a long time to realize, that happening to us changed us so much, and we wouldn't be where we are now today. We wouldn't have done things. We probably would have, not explored all the different strategies there was in property, not do more joint venturing, not do angel finance, not start the property meet, not do all of what we do. We wouldn't have done it. Definitely wouldn't have done it, because it changed us for the better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the better.
Yeah.
For the better.
I think the thing for me here is that whenever you're in one of those awful times, is to know that there is a lesson in whatever you are going through. All you've got to do is find it, and you might find it while you're in the terrible time. You might only find the lesson when you come out the terrible time. You might not find the lesson until a year or two down the line, but there is a reason for this. There is a lesson for this. And when you get back out the other side, what's on the other side will be different from where you were going, because you've just hit one of those pinball things and you're off in another trajectory. You will be, because you'll be changed by it. But that can be better if you decide that it's going to be better. You could have had this awful experience. You could have gone, sod it, I'm going to stay back being a nurse, etc. And Chris, you could have found something other than being in Tesco's. You could have had that as a thought, but you didn't. And now we're here. So the podcast is called A Wealthy Life. And if I leave you with sort of like a final question, what would a wealthy life mean to you now? What does a wealthy life mean to you now? Because I think you've got a wealthy life.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier, being able to commit so much time to the football club to help turn the football club from where it is to where it should be. And we're going there, and we're going in the right direction. Being able to go on a pre-season trip for 3 days and spend part of that time working on strategy for the football club and trying to inspire other people to share the vision that myself and one of the other lads have. Being able to do that, last week, 5 or 6 days in England and Scotland, during the week, the previous week, to Scotland for a pre-season friendly, just being able to do that. Some of the players can't go to these things because they're working in full-time jobs and play football part-time. So the fact that I'm not getting paid for it, but I've got the flexibility to be able to do that. So having that time freedom, not worrying about the bills, that's not to say we're not flush with money that we can just spend money willy-nilly, but we have a pretty comfortable life, and it'll get more comfortable because we do a lot of planning, and we've got a lot of projects on the go, and a lot of them are much better projects than we used to do. So unfortunately, I'm now thinking very heavily about pensions, because I'm getting to that age where I had very little pension, and now I'm like hitting my pension hard, so that in retirement, whatever, I don't when I say retirement, it doesn't mean I'll stop working, because I don't think I'll ever stop working. But at least I'll be comfortable. It's having the flexibility to do the things that inspire me, such as the football club, that I'm lucky enough to be able to do that.
And it's lovely to be able to, her passion's Irish dancing. And if I was back nursing, I probably couldn't afford for her to travel the world or to pay for her costumes or everything that's involved in that world. And the other thing, which is very strong for me, is helping others and making an impact. Not that I want to be known for making it, it's just been making an impact in other people's lives.
Leaving a positive touch.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, what more could you want, really, than to be in a position where you've got the financial freedom to pursue the interests that you love? You've got the time freedom to go with that. And on your way, Chris is helping build a football team and all of that. And you're helping build the future property investors and everything. But not just the future property investors, but out of that, refurbishing properties, creating decent homes for decent people, which is all of that passion down that line. Yeah, I mean, that is for me the epitome of a wealthy life, isn't it? I mean, just brilliant. I'm very conscious of time, and I know that you have to get off. So I want to carry on talking for another 4 hours at least. So Mary, maybe we can come back and have a girl version of property and what it's like to be a woman in property. Would you do that for me?
Love to. Yes.
All right, awesome. But in the meantime, Chris and Mary, thank you. It's been lovely to catch up with you.
Right. Likewise.
Yeah, likewise, Vicki.
Fantastic.
And
Thank you.
as we said off camera earlier, it's been 10 years. And I know we see each other on social media, and I'm sure we've been in touch, with messages or emails since then. But I think Belfast,
Too long.
maybe November 2015, which it's just gone like that. And that's another lesson. Life is short, and it passes you by in the blink of an eye. So
Quick.
enjoy the journey as well, because the destination is when it's over.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's the journey is the thing that we should be focused on, not as you say, where you're going to end up, because we know where that is. That's if you're lucky, a bed somewhere or not. Or maybe you don't want it to be a bed somewhere. Maybe you want it to not be a bed when you reach that destination. I don't know where I'm going with that. Forget that bit completely. Stay on the happy note. But look, it's awesome. So I'm going to have all of your social media and all your contacts, and I will make sure that all goes in the notes. But what I just want to do is, apart from saying thank you very much to you two, I'd like to say thank you to the listeners. I'm very conscious they give up their time to listen to these podcasts, and I'm very grateful for that. And what I want to do, as I always do in my podcasts, is leave you with a little bit of extra whoosh in your life to pick out some things from this conversation that I think are important, that I'd really like you to focus on. And I think that if you listen to Chris and Mary's story, that it's not about how much money you come into property with. It's about the clarity, that purpose, that why, and the commitment that you've got. I would say also, I think there's some courage and a plan in there as well. I think that's the really important bit. Why do you want to do it? Are you committed to it? And then do you have the plan and the courage to fulfill that plan? That would be my first thing. I think what's really come out of this is the whole thing about community, isn't it? And who you connect with, who you learn from, who you do business with. And as we reflected, that maybe using that term, actual friends, people that you would have in your house, is key, because make the wrong connection with the wrong person and you could have 5 months of misery, as we found out in that story. And then I think if we went right the way back to the beginning, when we were talking about the strengths of those that are successful and the traits of those that aren't, it isn't just about assets. It isn't just about wanting to get rich quick. It's about the freedom, the fulfillment. It's about learning on your journey and then passing on that knowledge. I think that passing on the knowledge, I mean, although Chris has moved from property to football, the experience that you have had through running a property business and running a property network and creating the strategies and the plans, that will be helping you in the football journey as well. Yeah. And then just to sort of wrap up here, if today's conversation with Chris and Mary has sparked something in you, maybe a dream, maybe a question, maybe a reminder that is it possible. I don't want you to let that energy fade. I want you to scroll down to the show notes where, as I said, I will put all the links to Chris and Mary, to the Belfast Property Meet, to the PSU, which is their online university. So even if you don't get over to Belfast, you can still connect with them. And I want you to really think about what this podcast has triggered for you. What questions do you have now? What insights have you gained? What do you know now that you didn't know before? And could, for example, property investment be actually something that has a role in your life? Or maybe what you've learned from this are some lessons that you can apply to your own businesses. Is it mindset, or is it the financial acumen? Is it the plan? Is it the why? Is it the purpose? Is it the commitment? What's missing for you, and what have you learned out of this podcast that you can start to apply to your lives? And I'd love you to share your thoughts. We'd love to know. And of course, please subscribe and review to the podcast, because you know that leaving those breadcrumbs is so important for others to follow, so important for other listeners as well as me, the podcast host. So, Chris and Mary, one final thank you for now, and one thank you and goodbye for now, but we'll be speaking again very soon. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
You're
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So remember, you can get in touch with us all. You can book a call with me. You can connect with Mary and Chris, or probably more Mary than Chris, explore property or a wealthy life or any of that. There are loads of resources to help you get started, because this isn't just another podcast. This is potentially the pivot point in your life. That's you hitting a positive obstacle in the road and shooting off and getting that result that you want to get. And let's make sure that you don't just listen, that you actually take that next smart step. So thank you very much again. And it's goodbye from Chris and Mary and myself. Thank you.